This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
In today's Western world, many therapy approaches focus on mental processes over embodied experiences and bypass spiritual dimensions of the healing journey. It is Jess Maitri's belief that genuine healing must include all parts of a person, including their energetic and spiritual aspects. True insight needs to be experienced through the body and witnessed within a conscious relationship in order to be fully integrated into their daily lives. Psychology can be similar to alchemy, as it has the capacity to transform the unwanted into something meaningful within the client's shadow or blind spots. Many do not realize that alchemy was the forerunner of modern chemistry and practiced by mystics who worked to transform base elements into gold. As an embodied alchemist, Jess assists you in transforming what is hidden in your subconscious, such as old beliefs or programs, and brings it into the light where it can be witnessed and healed. Valeria Teles interviews Jessica Maitri, the creator of Thera Method, licensed clinical social worker, certified yoga therapist, breathwork practitioner, intuitive energy healer, and speaker. Jessica Maitri blends both Eastern and Western therapeutic approaches to embodied wellness. Her training in both Western psychology and Eastern embodiment practices inform her work with groups and individuals. The Thera Method is a therapeutic modality used in both groups and individual work that invites individuals deeply into the present moment and meet life from a grounded and embodied perspective. She's deeply passionate about being part of the integrative medical model, creating a bridge between traditional mental health and holistic health. Jessica's work invites participants to deepen their exploration of self, dive deep into their body's innate wisdom, and strengthen their trust in life and their own intuition. Meet Jessica at yothera.com and jessmaitri.com. Here is the interview with Jessica Maitri.
In your own words, who is Jessica Maitri?
I am a human being, practicing more being, actually, than human doing. Yeah, I am practicing at the moment being more in the moment and living into the highest version of Jessica Maitri, whatever that wants to be and however that wants to unfold in the moment.
Is that really a practice, Jessica, when it comes to embodying the moment, being in the moment, or being, not just doing? Can we somehow merge those two and kind of accept unconditionally whatever unfolds, whatever happens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my practice in this time period, I've been really called to surrender more. And I know we have sometimes that word is kind of triggering a little bit, but so surrender can be, I like to say I'm meeting whatever is in front of me and I'm not getting ahead of myself as much as possible. So as I know that's not always possible. And I get that there is a time and a place for planning and all of that. But I also believe planning, but being flexible and still staying in the moment and really meeting what's in front of us it's kind of like this next level embodiment of learning how to do both at the same time.
It seems to me like somebody said before, I think I read somewhere, that I don't remember, perhaps one of Robert Wolf's books. He's a non-duality teacher. Being present with what is present. That's the key. And I think he talked about fear too. So when it comes to surrender, why do we resist? Is that because of the idea or the feeling of control that we are always looking for?
That definitely resonates when you say that is control. But I think even on a deeper level, for me, it's been triggering a sense of if I surrender, then I'm giving up power on some level. And I feel like power is more like we're all trying to find our power again,
Yeah.
and we try and do that through control sometimes, but power is so much deeper than that.
So, wow, that's one of my warm-up questions, actually. Power. What is true power to you? I really love the blog post you wrote about inner authority. There you talk about false power. So what is power to you? And if you can go deeper, what is true power?
In this moment, how I would describe it in my own experience is true power comes from living from this space. And I'll just tell you what's happening in my body right now, as well as there's right in the middle of my body. It's kind of like where my solar plexus, but low back, sacral area. I feel like that's, for me, living in my power means that that's what's guiding my life. It's from this deeper intuitive gut knowing versus like my mind or my trauma, and knowing the difference is really important, because sometimes our trauma feels like intuition.
So that's true. It does.
Hard, yeah. But I feel like that's power, is really living from that space.
What does it feel like to come from that place, Jessica? If you can give me an example of that. Like, how would you describe what intuition is?
The thought, I guess the image that's coming to mind as you ask that is, when let's say somebody invites me to participate in something or do something, my mind would, or my ego would say, whoa, that might get me a great opportunity, or I might be able to network, or whatever that ego mind really wants. But then if I drop into my body, there's a whole nother set of feeling. And I think it's an expansion versus a contraction. Like if it feels expansive in my heart, if it feels exciting to me, if it feels playful and like almost like a childlikeness to it, to me, that's intuition. That feels very intuitive.
Another question that comes is this dance between expansion and contraction. Isn't it part of the movement of life, of what life is? It's always moving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think we like to pretend that we hope that there's not a contraction.
Yes. Yeah, we do.
Like we want to live from this expanded state all the time. And
sure.
Yeah, I think that's part of embodiment, though, is really being okay with the cycles, I agree.
Yeah, and we can actually feel that with breathing. That's what's happening, expanding and then the contraction. Why not kind of embrace that in life itself? Being out of balance, it's okay. It's okay to be out of balance. But we tend to push away that, and that might have something to do with what we spoke earlier about control, trying to be in charge, right, of every moment, of every aspect of this experience called life. And speaking of life itself as a whole, what do you feel is the purpose of the human experience? Have you wondered?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah, of course. And this answer might continue to change. It probably will. But I tell my clients this too, is we're like, it feels like extraterrestrial beings in like an animal body, like our body, where we have these ginormous spirits and souls that have been squeezed into this animal body. And I feel like part of being here, the purpose is to learn how to let that shine through our animal body and learn how to work with our animal body, like the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, and really learning to work with the animal body and bringing that higher aspect here on earth feels like my purpose, feels like that's part of my purpose.
I hear that a lot, though, bringing the spirit to earth, embodying that and being that here. through the body. I explore a lot of these topics, especially going deeper with non-duality teachers. And I don't ask them actually about it. They simply tell me that there is no soul, there's no purpose really. All this is happening because it is life happening. And for some reason, I am resonating, or something in me. It's really resonating with that. It has been for years now. So when you speak about the soul or the spirit, as some call, what would that be? Like, can we experience the soul, Jessica?
Yeah. Well, from my experience, the spirit and soul are separate. And again, this is just my experience of it, but my spirit feels like this. It's always there. It's present. It's steady. It's almost like my direct connection to source. And it doesn't change very often. It's kind of like my pure essence. And then my soul is this other part of me that has this collection of lives and different experiences from different lifetimes. And I bring all of that here into this incarnation here in this body. And so it kind of, for me right now and where I'm at in my journey, that's how I experience soul and spirit being different for me.
Is that something that it has become a belief system? It's something that you can actually feel, not just feel, because it seems like everything's a feeling. When it comes to the body itself, everything becomes a feeling and emotion. I'm wondering for the soul, the spirit, it's beyond experience, beyond feelings. And it can only be realized, can only be perceived somehow.
I would agree with you. It's like we try and put this in words and context and all of that in boxes, right? But that's just, I agree. I think it's a felt, we're going to feel our way into the truth of whatever that is. Yeah.
I love the idea of kind of just experiencing what life is, what this is that we call life, as a miracle. Almost as a magical happening. I have no idea what this is. It's the unknown unfolding. It's the unknown being here. And I have no idea how this begun, what this is about, where all this is going, really. So that unknown place kind of brings me to this natural rest, I call it. Some people call it that too, I guess. It's a place of inner peace, of just the state, I would say it's peace, is inner peace. Because there's nothing to control, nothing to try to explain away, nothing to know, really, but just to be lived, just to be experienced in the body.
I agree with that fully. Yeah. There's a peace.
But this is something interesting that I noticed that most of us won't look for, because that has something to do with the death of identity. I have no idea who I am. I know you call me by this name, but, this is, I don't know, it's beyond a name, beyond labels. And this is really challenging for most of us to go deeper into it, right, Jessica? And really, right, and embrace, okay, this is the unknown. I have no idea what this is. I just kind of rest within it all. And
becoming nobody. Yeah.
Yes. It's a very challenging message to communicate. So transformation and change, what is the difference? I read one of your blog posts, and you talked about transformation in a way that I never heard before. Always unfolds in the present, and we don't know what it looks like. That really caught my attention.
I love that. It's a lot of what we're talking about already, but change is, in my mind, it's a measurable thing, right? And as a therapist that I used to, work as a very traditional therapist for about 10 years. And that's what we were looking for, is change. It was like, okay, so we've got a treatment plan and we're moving from A to B, and you can measure that and there's change. But I just believe that transformation is the bigger picture of what's happening, because change is layered. Like if one thing changes, it actually affects so much more. So if we're doing, let's say, shadow work, it's actually affecting our body. And if we're working on our body, sometimes shadow psychological, imprints or whatever you want to call it can come up as we work on our body as well. So that's more transformation includes all parts of a person, and change sometimes is just one part.
What was the inspiration for you to become a yoga therapist or a therapist, Jessica?
Well, let's see. I began in 2010 as just a traditional clinical social worker in private practice, and I did, mental health therapy in that way for about 6 years before I found yoga. And of course, then I went through Phoenix Rising yoga therapy training, and then all sorts of intuitive abilities started coming online. And so, it's really been a natural progression since maybe 5 years ago of just getting more out of the head and more into the body and the intuition and the energy, the energetics of transformation. So really, I moved from just working with change to working with transformation. And it's been beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds, you sound beautiful talking about it too. It can be felt in your voice. That's interesting because it's energy. Everything is energy. So it's being transmitted. You believe that genuine healing, this is something, I'm paraphrasing you, something that I read about you. You believe that genuine healing must include all parts of a person, including their energetic and spiritual aspects. So how did you discover that? And what is spirituality to you?
Ooh, that's a great question. Spirituality to me is not a linear thing. It can be anything. Spirituality is something that everyone, in my opinion, everybody is already, even if they say that they're atheist or whatever. That I still believe that we are all living a spiritual life because we're here in these bodies and we're part of the earth, we're part of. So to me, that's all spirituality is. And then there's all these layers on top of it that we like to put labels on, call different words and different lineages and stuff. But for me, we're all spiritual beings just by being here and living here on earth. It's very earthly to me. Spirituality is just very earth-based for me.
Do you connect spirituality to healing and authenticity?
I do, and in the sense that if we're not grounded in our bodies, if we're not fully in our bodies, then I've noticed that it's harder for the individual to truly heal if they're not fully landed in their bodies. And actually, most people aren't. Most people are operating from the neck up most of the day. And so healing, if we're not fully in our bodies or we don't know how to be, that's part of healing is learning how to feel yourself and feel the sensations, talking to different parts of the body, giving it a voice. All of that, in my opinion, is essential. It's absolutely essential. And how often we try and heal without being able to do that, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Yeah.
When I think about it, being in the mind most of the time, and even intellectual understandings about things that we talked about today, it really doesn't work when we try to heal the mind with the mind. Yeah, I tried that for many years too.
Yeah, did you? Yeah.
Boy, yes.
Yeah.
Reading and everything you think of. And then I found energy healing, then I found shamanic rituals and everything else. Psychedelic, I had an experience with that, but it was not really my choice. I was in Shambhala centers, one of the meditation centers, and they just gave it to me to see what would happen. Oh, and that was interesting.
Wow.
Let's not go into it, but I know that was an interesting experience. So that's when I felt really like the embodiment of belief systems, and everything that was in my mind just came into the body and just was expressing itself through the body. So that was incredible. Like, wow, to remember that, because in the moment you don't really realize what's happening. You do, but you don't at the same time. So I have another question for you about, healing. When do we know when healing is happening? It's taking place. Is there a destination for healing, Jessica?
Well, when you said that, the first thing I thought of was actually not what we think of, was what the words that came in. But we think of healing as like, oh, I'm feeling so great. I have experienced healing actually, meaning like there's a trauma in the body that shows up. There's a conflict that arises. There's something that's uncomfortable. And that's part of the work that I like to teach is that we can't bypass, healing means it's messy. That's what I think. Healing, when healing has started, things are starting to fall apart. And that's when you start to go, oh, okay, now I'm on the path of healing now, not when I get to the other side of that.
Right.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
What a paradox, right, in the way.
Right.
So it's all about feeling the feelings, not trying to escape them, trying to hide. And I wonder how much we hide.
That's so much.
Yeah, still, right? I know. And I interviewed a lot of people on a lot of things, healing methods, so many of them. Some people talk about ayahuasca and going back to those healing methods of psychedelics and all, being one of the most powerful, potent kinds of healing methods because it's really fast the way it happens. Do you agree with that? Do you have some, not experience, but do you have some knowledge about that? Is the psychedelics and ayahuasca the same? I'm not sure if is there a difference between them?
I mean, there is, but I'm not an expert in that. I have tried all sorts I've done almost everything, and I have to say, that did, the experience that I've had with ayahuasca did ignite a deeper healing and a deeper remembering. So it did serve as a catalyst for me as far as opening certain centers in the body and in the mind and helping to connect certain circuits. But I have to, at this point, it feels like I'm being called more to organic, natural, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but just more of like using the light, the intense amount of light that feels like it's coming onto the earth right now. And, but again, that's just my journey at this time. And I may feel called back to that again. I'm not sure. But it does catalyze for a lot of people, that opening.
It really leads us to realize, there's a lot of realizations that take place when we do that. You're right. This is something that we are, in a way, trying to manipulate in a place that we are trying to get. So it's still like intentional healing. And I love the idea you said that about natural healing, which means being guided by what's happening now, the way we are feeling. So you just spoke about the light. Does it have something to do with the events in 2020?
That's a great question. I intuitively, if I were to answer that, and I can't back this up with facts, but it felt like there was a lot of light coming in, and so therefore the light kind of uproots the dark, and that's how it happens in just individual journeys as well as when you receive. There's some healing that's occurring. You've got it kind of like with homeopathy. There's like a crisis, right? There's a bloom of all the disease that comes up. And that feels collectively like what is happening and has happened. And, I feel like we're on a journey collectively to actually healing so much in a short period of time. Yeah.
And my last warm-up question, I have two of them, but I'll ask one. I have asked too many. I would go forever here with you. So what do you love most about being in a human body?
Oh, so good. I love feeling, I love dancing. I love, when I say sensual, it has nothing to do with sex, although it can, but I love sensuality. I love, all of the senses and the ways that I can feel and experience and interact with this world through this body. I mean, I'm just a very sensual human, and I enjoy that. And like all the things, all the tastes and smells and textures
and sound, music, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I love that too. So you combine Eastern and Western therapeutic approaches. Is this something that happened naturally, Jessica, or this is something that you have been taught and it came through observations and studies?
It's kind of like similar. My answer would be similar to, the psychedelic question. It's like I have been exposed to a lot of different, modalities and trainings and certifications, and all of that has probably played a part in igniting within me some remembrances of what I'm here to do. And so what I do now, I wouldn't say someone taught me. I would say they helped me remember what I kind of already do intuitively, if that makes sense. And I'm grateful for all of that. So
yeah, I love the way you say that too. It's a remembrance. So it's just being reminded, which everything is in a way, right? Like you said, you talked about spirituality. Everything is spiritual. Everything is spirituality happening. There's nothing that's not life itself, which to me is life, just being life. So you are also the creator of your Thera Method. Talk to me about how it works and your intention of bringing this work to our reality.
Yeah, and the word Yothera is a combination of yoga and therapy. So, as you probably know, and many of your listeners, yoga isn't just the asanas or the poses. I mean, yoga is life. It's embodiment. It's the breath. It's all of it. And so, Yothera method is a 3-phase, basically a journey of transformation. And the first phase is the mind. So we actually do kind of look at how the conscious mind and the subconscious mind work, and the shadows. We work with the archetypes as well. There's 12 archetypes of your Thera method. So we explore shadow work and old stories. So really phase 1 is helping people get clear on their old stories that are running in their unconscious mind. So that's phase 1. And then phase 2 is embodiment, which is teaching them how to begin, like we've been talking about, is how to truly be in the moment, how to be with their bodies differently, how to tap into what their voices of their bodies are telling them. We use a lot of heart coherence, which is like heart math work, working with the heart and intuition. And then through that phase 2 process, we help them to rewrite that old story into a new story through their intuition, through the body, through what's true, with this, I call it the innocent perspective. So they are able to rewrite that story into phase 3 is being seen in their new story. And so there's lots of ritualistic and different ways that they share their new story with the groups, they share it with their community, and then they're able to be seen in this new way. And that's a huge part of healing, is being seen.
When you speak about stories, that's it's interesting when I think about all the old stories that I had, and then now I still feel them running on the background, but I don't give attention to them a lot of times. Sometimes I do, and then it becomes a mess. Let me see. And then I'm thinking here about new stories. Is it possible to navigate this reality without stories, without any belief systems?
I think that ultimately that would be the way to go, right? Would be to be empty, have no sense of, And I think the, part of your Thera method is coming from the space of the innocent archetype is like the ultimate, has the perspective of clarity, non-duality, sees everything from this higher perspective. And there's a sense of emptiness actually that comes with that perspective. Yeah.
How is psychology similar to alchemy? You mentioned that.
Yeah, psychology. I think the traditional psychology, I'm not sure is, but just because the traditional psychology is just working with the mind. And for me, alchemy is working with all parts, like we've talked about. It's that bigger transformation, but the mind is a huge part of it, because that unconscious mind is what's operating the animal body. And so we do have to include the mind in alchemy, because if we're not sure how to access that unconscious mind and change the programs and change the stories, then we're only changing it from a conscious level. And that's more just kind of what we talked about. That's more of the change, not the transformation.
That's beautiful. I love everything about you.
Thank you.
Everything.
Thanks.
It's beautiful. It reminds me of nature itself. Some people do. That's interesting. When I am in nature, that's the embodiment of unconditional love, really. It's that openness, that it's free. It's really free energy, unbounded. You remind me of that.
Thank you.
This is something that I found on your website. Your Thera teaches individuals how to become the conscious creator of their life by freeing and transforming unconscious programs of the mind through a deeper connection to their intuition and wisdom that lives within their body. I love that, the way you phrase that. You have been saying all this in different ways, but it really communicates that message about what the method is all about. It's beautiful. We're almost at the end, but the method is for professionals, individuals, and groups, right, Jessica? Anyone can use it.
Anyone can use it, yep.
And to find more information about Thera and you, there are 2 websites. Can you please remind me of them? I have them here somewhere.
Yeah, there's yothera.com. You can learn all about it there. There's also yotheramethod.com. We're gonna link those soon, but you can do that. There's an on-demand evergreen course that anybody can go through at their own pace on that website. So they can experience Thera Method on their own, and then they get connected to a larger community that way. So there's those 2. There's also jessmaitri.com if people want to work with me individually. I do more energetic attunement practices and work kind of as a mentor, not as a therapist, but that's my other business. So
I'll have both links on your podcast profile.
Oh, great.
How do you define success these days? What is to be successful to you?
Being authentic. That's success. Like fully, truly, authentically, uniquely ourselves.
I love that. Yes, 1,000,000,000 times. And what is another word for life?
Joy, prana. That's presence.
Yeah. If you knew you would die soon, meaning losing or leaving the body, would you make any change or do anything in a different way?
I would be super playful, and I would probably dance as much as I could, honestly.
That sounds good. Dancing, wow. Living, dancing, dying, dancing. I love that idea that we can live in a way that we would die. Same way, just live and die.
Yes.
And the last question is, what are 3 things about life you wish everyone to experience before they lose the body?
I would wish that everybody had felt a sense of true safety, really what it felt like to be held. I would wish that everybody would be able to experience truly, deeply loving unconditionally and being loved unconditionally. I think that would be beautiful.
When you speak about unconditional love, I think about self first, unconditional self-love, if we can come from that place, if there is a self, or even that illusory idea of the self, coming from that place that I love whatever this is, unconditionally. And then it seems to me like it's easier to expand that love to others, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for your presence. Yeah, your beautiful, authentic, and heartfelt presence, everything that you represent in this reality, and everything that can be felt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now, and we'll be in touch. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Jessica Maitri and her work, please visit yothera.com and jessmaitri.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.